there's no real answer. I think it really depends per person. And that bonding experience with the host, with the tree, that the mistletoe bonded with the host tree, is so important.
Yeah.
And people that have these experiences with mistletoe are ready to have them.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning like they open up, it's almost like having cancer is like going to therapy. It's admitting that there's some things that you're doing that have been bad for you, and you need to be open to improve on things. And when people are open to learning and understanding their body, especially doing terrain testing, that's when things really start working.
Yeah. I remember when we first did the test for the mistletoe, we tested 2 uveitis and I think the penny.
I thought uveitis because thymus produces blood. It's in the sternum, it's high up. I was always gravitated for uveitis for you.
Yeah. Welcome to the Forward Think Tank podcast, a place of hope, inspiration, and education around holistic health and healing. I'm your host, Jamie Mazza, a holistic health coach, mental health advocate, and dancer. Join me as I share out-of-the-box conversations with integrative doctors, healers, and exceptional forward-thinking individuals thriving on the other side of their health challenges, as well as stories from my own personal healing journey. Thank you for tuning in. I'm so happy you're here. Welcome back to the Forward Think Tank, friends. On this week's episode, I am welcoming Rebecca LaMarca. She is an incredible human. She is brilliant. She is a functional medicine nurse practitioner, and she is the founder of IV Elements, a place that has truly been a saving grace for me in the last year and a half. She offers mistletoe therapy, Helleborus, which I spoke to Dr. Janet about a couple months back in the end of last season. She does my high dose vitamin C. She offers tons of other health supportive IVs and, functional medicine support. She has 4 locations across the state of New Jersey, and it has been such a saving grace for me because she is very well versed in cancer care. She is also trained by Dr. Nasha Winters. I am fortunate to be able to work with a lot of metabolic trained practitioners in my healing journey, and Rebecca is one of them. You will see why I adore her. I think the world of her. She is highly intellectual and also a very caring human being. So just to tell you a little bit more about Rebecca, encompassing anthroposophic and integrative medicine, Rebecca has been a functional medicine nurse practitioner for over 6.5 years, running IV Elements since 2018. She is a terrain provider under Dr. Nasha Winters, the author of The Metabolic Approach, completing her cohort 7 under Metabolic Terrain Institute of Health. Not only has she visited clinics and hospitals with her naturopathic peers in Germany and Switzerland in September of 2024, she is certified in mistletoe therapy since 2023 and completed the apprenticeship program with Believe Big and PAAM. She is well versed in mistletoe therapy, treating various and rare types of cancer with conventional medicine and naturally for those not wanting to go the conventional route. She administers mistletoe intravenously, cutaneously, and intratumorally. In addition, she is trained in the Zotzmann ozone machine, administering 10-pass hyperbaric ozone, EBOO, EBOO therapy, and other types of ozone procedures that help so many people with co-infections, inflammation, and biofilm issues. Her clinic offers curcumin, poly-MVA, methylene blue, phosphocholine, calcium EDTA, and disodium EDTA, aka chelation infusions, Plaquex, and more. So Rebecca, I couldn't wait to get her on here because she has so much information in that beautiful brain of hers, and you will see as she just takes you through her experience working with cancer patients, how she started IV Elements, and she also talks to us about specifically mistletoe and the 10-pass ozone, which are 2 treatments that I have used at her clinic over the last year and a half. And it is becoming more and more common, I think, in integrative cancer care. She tells us a little bit about her experience being overseas and seeing the mistletoe trees and how they grow and the bonding experience and really the deeper spiritual meaning behind mistletoe, which is so fascinating. Because for me, in this journey of healing, it isn't just the therapies I'm doing. It isn't medication that I'm taking. It isn't just the surgical procedure, it is a mind-body experience. And I think that is something that Rebecca and I definitely see eye to eye on, and she has such a deep understanding and appreciation for. So this conversation was so enjoyable, and I'm so excited to share her with you. So if you are in the state of New Jersey and you are lucky enough to be close to one of her clinics, I go to visit the one personally in Hoboken. She is just really such an admirable woman to be running this business. She is training her nurses, who are all just really wonderful people. I feel so taken care of every time I step into that clinic, and I'm so grateful that it exists. I hope you enjoy this episode. So please welcome Rebecca LaMarca to the Forward Think Tank. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for your time. I really hope people get a lot out of this. Thank you for being you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Forward Think Tank. I am here today with a special guest. She is a functional medicine nurse practitioner and the owner of IV Elements. I want to welcome Rebecca LaMarca to the Forward Think Tank. Rebecca, I'm so happy to have you here with me. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm thrilled to be talking to you today and picking your very brilliant brain.
Thank you so much, Jamie. I feel honored that you even asked me. A few of your other guests were that of such reputability, especially your naturopathic doctor, also from the terrain under Dr. Winters. So I feel honored and humbled. So thank you so much.
Of course. Listen, I hold you right up there in that same regard with those, I would even call them colleagues of yours at this point, since you've all trained under Dr. Nasha. I remember when I first got diagnosed and I was very new to the metabolic approach. I have always been interested in like holistic medicine and wanting to do things a little unconventionally. My doctors who were based in Canada are like, oh, can you find mistletoe? Can you find high dose vitamin C? So I'm doing my research, Googling everything. And I was so thankful to have found IV Elements, because I called a bunch of places and I was like, do you do just pure vitamin C drips? And a lot of places were like, yeah, we mix it in bags with a bunch of other things. I'm like, no, I need just like pure vitamin C. So I found IV Elements, and whoever I spoke was like, yep, that's what we do. We absolutely help people in situations like yours who have a cancer diagnosis or any type of serious health ailment. So then I learned, of course, that you were also training under Dr. Nasha. So it was just like all of my worlds and all of my practitioners kind of came together, and it just was so comforting. I've learned so much from you over the last year. I mean, I always tell you, you are brilliant. There's so much information in your brain, so I can't wait to pick it. But let me ask you this just to start, knowing that as a nurse, you have had this business for 6.5 years. Prior to that, I believe you had experience in the ER setting.
Actually, as a nurse practitioner, I started off at the Cancer Institute of New Jersey. So that was my first nurse practitioner job. Prior, I was a nurse in the surgical setting. And just that's when things blossomed for me as a nurse practitioner. When I was doing glioblastoma research, I was in charge of the tumor board. I brought together the radiation oncologist, the neuro-onc and neurosurgery together in the same room, and we would present these cases. Later on, I feel like I kind of have a board also in these case studies with Dr. Winters, especially. It's very similar, but my eyes really opened doing neuro-oncology because many cancers metastasize to the brain where they do have to get gamma knife treatment. So I did see and learn so many different types of cancers because it does metastasize. I would do the planning and mapping, measuring these small tumors in the brain that do grow slowly or fast, depending on the type of cancer and where they are. Yeah. And then we would do the gamma knife so they could still function. Obviously, we wouldn't want them to have any issues swallowing, with motor issues, cognitive. So it is helpful so there isn't any deterioration. So that's really when my nurse practitioner, I guess, career started, and where I even found out about alternative medicine because I treated a lot of cancer patients. I loved asking them questions. I feel like I was in the room way too long. Whereas in the conventional world, it's all about how fast you see patients.
Yep.
And I'd be like, what else are you doing? What medications do you take? And always when I did that history, the supplements, I got a whole printout sheet. And I was like, it started becoming very common with the type of supplements people were taking and doing. And I was like, where are they getting this from? Because we don't offer them supplements. And that's when I found out that not many patients were open to alternative medicine when I was in the conventional world. So it was, though, overlapping with the few patients that I saw. And I just was so interested by it, especially being a D1 athlete, very big into health and wellness, working out, eating well. I was like, this aligns with this for sure. And my brain just started like moving forward for sure.
Yeah. So having those conversations with those patients, were any of them at that time following the metabolic approach, or they just more so had an interest in non-conventional ways of treating cancer?
They had an interest in non-conventional ways, definitely, especially starting the business in 2018, really very close after being at the Cancer Institute. I knew I wanted to do something right away. I didn't see too much with patients until COVID. I felt like just because the vaccines were such a pressure.
Yes.
And people are, I guess, a little more awakened by the conventional treatments, that I saw resistance with the cancer patients in regards to chemotherapy, radiation, immunotherapy, etc. However, I think there are amazing advancements in the conventional world, and IV Elements is an integrative company. So we would love to work with the oncologists, and even if someone is doing any sort of chemo, immunotherapy, or radiation, we want to work with them to make them feel better and obviously enhance the treatments that they're receiving conventionally. It's not saying that conventional is better than natural and natural is better than conventional.
Absolutely.
I think some patients, now that we're fully in the alternative worlds, I'm not in the hospital anymore, there are some patients that definitely push away conventional treatments and try to go purely alternative. And it's something that is their choice. However, I think there is a time and place for doing both treatments.
Took the words right out of my mouth. You know my story a bit just from coming into the clinic. I was one of those people that really did not want the conventional in terms of the chemotherapy, but working with some of Dr. Nasha's doctors and talking to them and just having an understanding of what was going on in my body. I mean, I knew nothing really about cancer myself until I was working to treat it. And I do feel like I had a very active role in that process working with these integrative doctors, which is amazing. But I do agree, there's a time and a place for it, right? I mean, I just had major surgery. That's part of conventional treatment as well.
Right.
And when I came into your clinic, I mean, I don't know if you remember me, I'm sure, coming in like this with one eye open.
I know. Oh my God, you could not open your one eye.
No, I was like deer in the headlights
So
and
upset. I know.
didn't even want to tell you guys like why I was there, what I was going through. But I felt so comfortable because there was this understanding of what was going on. I started opening up to you, opening up to your nurses. You hire so well. Everyone just feels like a friend and treats me like family. No, it's like, okay, I'm going through chemo. Like, hopefully nobody heard that. But it's like, okay, like we can work with that. So it wasn't, I've never felt walking into your clinic like it's one or the other. I think there's very much an understanding that there is a time and a place for both to work together.
Just to kind of go off of that, I hire people because it's my business. I'm around them all the time. My tribe reflects who I am. And I would want them to, even if anything happened to me or my family members, treat my family, and I want the best. But we consistently, I think most of my efforts come in the weekly meetings, communicating consistently, right? What I learn is growing, but I can't grow by myself. I have to water the plants.
Yep.
For sure. So I'm so happy that you felt that way, because most of my efforts do come into making sure my employees are happy and they're well educated and understand, and they feel that energy and they give that nurturing feeling, and they're compassionate and empathetic.
Absolutely. I've even when it's like, oh God, there's a new nurse today. How's she going to be? It's like, nope, everyone. I've met people who've come in from Asbury Park and, had just like one treatment with her. She was great. I obviously have people who I see regularly, Jaleesa, Stephanie. Everyone is also very gentle with like putting IVs in, which I've had pretty interesting experiences just with everything that has ever been placed in my veins. Some people are very good at it and some people are a little rough and don't care. And I swear you have angels working with you.
Definitely learned that too in my hiring process. Everyone thinks they can. So we do have a very intense hiring process where they do have to get 8 out of 10 first sticks. And like I said, I do have to meet with them first and feel how their personality is and their energy.
Yeah, makes sense. To back up a little bit, since I kind of just jumped right in.
I feel like we're going to do that a lot.
So you have 3 locations currently throughout the state of New Jersey with IV Elements, which is so admirable. I will tell you, for anyone who's watching this and not familiar with this place, not only is the aesthetic beautiful, everybody who works there is just like very nurturing, intelligent, skilled, kind, and caring. But you have these well-established locations now and you have teams working for you. Tell me what the vision was when you left your prior career and for creating IV Elements. Was it specifically to work with cancer patients? Was it to maybe like broaden that reach a little bit more? Because I know you offer quite a few different types of treatments. And really, what is the mission for the business?
Yeah, if I could go back to where it started, it was really hard to kind of think of a name and see where I wanted to take it. I think that's really the hardest part, is the beginning. But I wanted to really reflect who I am as a person. I was a Girl Scout, got my Gold Award. I was in bands, I played sports, but I also was a very giving, did a lot of community service. My family's like that as well. Not only keep taking care of patients in my profession, I love taking care of people outside. I've always been explained to other people as a nurturing person, loving, doing anything for anyone. So I wanted a name and a feeling, especially a brand. I wasn't thinking this far because I'm a nurse practitioner. I don't know about branding really too much, but I loved how certain things made me feel. I was really big into movies when I was younger. I think that's why music and lighting has always gravitated towards me. And one of my favorite movies, just because my parents are engineers, we love action movies. I'm big into Marvel, is The Fifth Element, and that is with Bruce Willis. And it was just a movie about this human being defeating evil. Lilu, she has orange short hair. And at the end, there were 4 stones and they reflected like wind, earth, fire, and water, the 4 elements of life.
Yeah.
And it went to her, the 5th element, the being destroying evil to save elements of life. And I did kind of create the feeling like, wow, elements of life is nature, it's alternative, it's where I want to take this. And I want to be Lilu. I want to be defeating co-infections and cancer and disease. So that I think that's like the reflection of where I got this from. IV Elements is obviously 4 elements, but we name it IV Elements. It's trademarked, but I wanted to go back to what I loved and how I could portray what I love and who I am, and like just this little brand pitch, like I said.
I love that.
Encompassing that and having that part of the brand and explaining it to the employees and making sure that's what we stand for. The patients feel it as well. And it helps us in regards to marketing, everything, presence in the community, and education, treatment plans, etc. I think that's where the business definitely did excel in a short period of time, is because I created a story. I don't even want to bring up Taylor Swift, but people love her songs because they're about their storytelling. They want to relate to it.
So now that we're sharing stories about our family, I come from a family of designers and artists. My dad has been in branding and identity work. He's had his own business for 35 plus years, and I worked for him out of college. So I got the experience of naming different companies and working on packaging and design. So seeing how all of those elements come together, to your point, to tell a story, to connect with people, to have a bigger meaning beyond just a logo and a name is really important, because I can see now, just hearing that story, but then also having the experience of being a patient at your clinic, like how it all comes together and creates the full vision. So it's beautiful. I really appreciate you sharing that. Yes. I love it. I've never seen that movie, so I'll have to watch it and now I'll think of you.
It's so good. You'll love it.
I'm sure
It
I
doesn't really
will.
talk about wind, earth, fire, and water much, but the elements of life are people. So, it's great.
I love it. Tell me what drew you to the metabolic approach and how you found Dr. Winters and her work.
Just like a lot of how maybe the surfaces and me being open to where I could take the business does come with listening to patients.
Mm-hmm.
I am constantly learning. I'm not perfect. And I think just with my background, I feel like you become an expert in what you do when you do it. Like
Absolutely.
I couldn't be an expert in integrative oncology and alternative medicine without the business.
Mm-hmm.
So just listening to my patients, at first I was treating, I'll never forget a cancer patient. She is on our website. She has a testimonial and she beat stage 3 breast cancer with us. And she was really big
Amazing.
into a book called Chris Beats Cancer,
Yes, very familiar.
which is on the other side of the metabolic approach.
Mm-hmm.
And he beat stage 4 colon cancer really with a raw diet. And she did show me the book and she really adhered to his diet. I don't think that is applicable for everyone.
Agreed.
And he is also not a physician. However, just a lot of people who have stories, especially you having a podcast, many patients will love to listen what you're doing and it would be so helpful and they will really relate to you. So I think that's where his book comes in. But then I had an ovarian cancer patient come in, and we see a lot of cancer patients, and I asked them questions, and she was just telling me how much I needed to read Dr. Winter's book,
Mm.
which the book is amazing. I think
Yes.
Dr. Winters does go through even what we learn as terrain providers doing in the MTIH, which is the Metabolic Terrain Institute of Health. That's where all the terrain providers take her course.
Mm-hmm.
She gives a lot of information to the public. So a lot of what we do, even as providers, is what is in the book. I learned so much from that book, just from eating, fasting, environmental factors, going through my life, like grounding, breath work, stress levels, trifecta, basic labs. It really opened my eyes a lot more to talking with my cancer patients that I had in regards to offering lab work. So then I felt a little more comfortable. Like, I'm interested. I would love to see it. Can I see your
Yeah.
labs with your naturopath or oncologist currently? Or can I take over some of this if you're not able to get it?
Mm-hmm.
So I felt a little more comfortable. And after doing many, many labs, I started getting into a little more. Then 2 years ago, we already started doing mistletoe therapy injections at IV Elements. For any of you that don't know what mistletoe therapy is, I like to call it almost the immunotherapy in the alternative world. It helps increase white blood cells and cytokines that basically destroy cancer, which is your own cells rapidly dividing. So it causes cell apoptosis, which is cell death to those rapidly dividing cells, which is what immunotherapy does. So we started doing those injections for our cancer patients. And I definitely wanted the certification through PAAM, which is the governing body that does help in regards to training providers for mistletoe further. I think at this point, 2 years ago, I really just wanted to be a naturopath or physician or alternative medicine provider where we're offering these services. I feel comfortable doing them and I give access to our patients to get them without paying a bunch of money just to get to that step and wait a few months.
Right.
And then I saw Dr. Winters at the mistletoe course 2 years ago. She did help write the book that there is for the public as well, reading about mistletoe therapy. And I feel like my life also changed forever. Just meeting her, just her energy. She hugged me the minute she met me. It was like, I
Aw.
felt like I was meeting a celebrity at first.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. Fangirl.
for you, I'm sure you would hug her immediately also.
Oh my God, yes. When I post things, I'll sometimes tag her. Who knows who's on her social media page
No,
managing
she
that,
already knows of you. Like I said, I got coffee with her
which
at
is
the
wild.
environmental medicine conference this past February. And she's like, I know I follow Jamie. And she does, she sees it.
So crazy.
It was
I mean, that means a lot to me. Between you, Lori, Dr. Janet, and Dr. Kaplan, the guy who I went to go see in Buffalo, it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm working with like quite a few people who have trained under her who are probably coming to her with questions. So she's got to be like, who is this Jamie person? And like, what is going on? I mean, I'm
she has such a
honored
good
to know
memory
that.
too. She remembers all these patients. I know she doesn't directly do patient care as much because she's building this empire,
Yeah.
but she definitely is so good at prior conversations, which is really amazing about her, and I think any provider, is that they remember a conversation with you. It's not like the first time they see you, like, who are you again? Like, oh, I don't
Right.
remember. She'll leave off our conversations. Like when I went to Switzerland and Germany with her, she asked me about my dog and
Oh,
about like some things I told her about what's happening after the trip. So
yeah.
she's just so great.
It goes a long way. I mean, I would love to hear you talk about your experience because I know, I think that's kind of when I like tapered off of thinking about the timeline. I feel like you had gone overseas around September of last year, and that was when I started having the myasthenia crisis. And then I stopped coming to the clinic. I was in the hospital. All these crazy things were happening. But I would love for everyone else to hear and understand a little bit more about your experience going over there, seeing where mistletoe is grown and how it's produced.
Yeah, no, I honestly really love seeing, I guess, because the engineering and technical side, the way I grew up, I just like seeing how it's even done.
Yeah.
But a year and a half ago, I actually went to the US pharmacy where we do buy our mistletoe here, and I saw how it was made. So they actually do receive the tinctures of the mistletoe and they do make it more along US standards, and then
Mm.
we're able to get it here. So
Hmm.
me going to Germany was something where I was like, this is going to be amazing. So mistletoe is under the anthroposophic medicine realm,
Hmm.
which is really talking about the spirit and soul, nature, how the body reacts to nature versus nature reacting to the body, or bonding, as you may say. And I was like, oh, this governing body, PAM, is with mistletoe. It's so different than anything else. And then just learning at anthroposophic medicine has made me really understand mistletoe and actually be able to treat it so much differently than when we first started.
Hmm.
Mistletoe therapy is basically a plant that grows on a host tree. So
Okay.
that's where the mistletoe gets its names from. There's different type of trees.
Right.
We have the aviatus, pinny, and molly. Those are the three most common. There's also Corcus. That's another one. There's helixer form of mistletoe, which is the non-fermented type. And then there is the Iscador, which is fermented.
Hmm.
So there's two different types. Safely, a lot of physicians do the helixer form or the non-fermented because the Iscador form can really introduce fevers and the
Huh.
dosing is a lot different.
Okay. That's new to me. I did not
Yeah,
realize there was two different types. So
it is the same. It's just one is fermented versus
w-
non-fermented.
I've never heard anyone talk about that before. So that's really interesting.
Well, because mistletoe is actually, there's a Fraxini form, and I'm sure you know of that because you did do
Yes.
hyperthermia. So we would give Fraxini and we can give Iscador the same time. So not going into the technicality of it, a lot of times someone might get who's mistletoe naive, or even if someone's on mistletoe, they might need something a little higher. They
Hmm.
would basically get like either way an Iscador infusion with an Abnova sub-Q injection, or they could get a Fraxini infusion with an Iscador injection, or
Hmm.
by itself.
Hmm.
It really depends on the provider. Again, mistletoe is really not a cookie cutter thing. That's what's so cool about it. And what I love is my brain always is turning and learning that it's really the bond that this plant has with the person.
Hmm.
So it's a harmonious thing that people have to be ready for on all levels, meaning mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've seen people bond and have such great results with mistletoe when they're ready to accept it and ready for an alternative treatment. You're
Hmm.
not going to really see that bonding effect. And when I say bonding, that's when we do give this mistletoe. There's that three types, like I said. There's a aviatus, there's pinny, and molly, which are the most common three
Hmm.
aside from the fermented, non-fermented, and other types. The three have guidelines in regards to what types of cancer you have. So
Hmm.
Molly is typically people who do carry maybe weight in the midsection if you go off of body type, but mainly
Hmm.
we as physicians and providers do go off of first cancer.
Hmm.
So that Molly is good for female cancers, it's good for ovarian, cervical, uterine, breast,
Hmm.
and people with midsection cancers like liver, colon, pancreas. Pinny is retroperitoneal, so it's more bladder. It does not include prostate, and it's really great for blood cancers, leukemia, lymphoma. And then aviatus is a good one for prostate, which we see a lot, and lung cancer, brain. Basically, the cancers that form against the meningeal lining, which goes
Hmm.
back to biofilm. We'll talk about it even with EBOO. And with ENT, because ENT is that meningeal, that mucosal lining.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to just think a little more about the areas. But when
Yeah.
you see these tree farms in Germany, you'll see what the trees look like. Typically, people who have breasts or women who have weight in their stomach, this tree is very puffy on top. It's an apple tree.
Hmm.
Whereas a pine tree, the people typically who have bladder or even leukemia, lymphoma are very tall and slender and
Yeah.
frail. So
Yeah.
like that tree is a pine tree, so it's very tall and slender.
So
So
interesting.
sometimes when someone doesn't bond with a specific type of mistletoe based on, if I give, let's just say, a breast cancer patient Molly,
Mm-hmm.
and she's not bonding by like maybe 20 milligrams if I give it subcutaneously, or if she's just not feeling warm in the IV process,
Mm-hmm.
because we do want to create a bit of a fever reaction, especially with the mistletoe IV, that it should be everyone's goal, not very high fever, but a low grade fever. Then I would change them. And sometimes my breast cancer patients are tall and slender,
Right.
and they might then gravitate towards Penny.
Yeah.
I have seen also some people do a test from Greece, the RCCA test,
I've heard of it, and maybe that's from conversations with you. I'm not familiar with what it is.
but there is a test out there that can test what type of mistletoe is good for you.
Yeah.
Lately, just because we've been doing mistletoe so long, I've seen people who said that mistletoe was never a good candidate for them based on the test, but then they tried mistletoe and they have these big red reactions. If they're
Mm.
having a red reaction, that means that they're
It's a good
bonding
thing.
with the tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's hard to have a test based on mistletoe. There's no real answer. I think it really depends per person.
Looking to incorporate mistletoe into your healing journey? If so, I have great news for you. Ivy Elements is offering 5% discount to any new users of mistletoe, to all of my podcast listeners. So if you are listening and this applies to you or a loved one, please mention my name, Jamie Mazza, or the Forward Think Tank podcast when you call Ivy Elements. They are just so incredible, resourceful. I have had such a wonderful experience in their care while I have been healing this year. And she ships all across the US, so please do not hesitate to reach out. Again, mention Jamie Mazza or the Forward Think Tank for 5% off mistletoe.
And that bonding experience with the host, with the tree, that the mistletoe obviously bonded with the host tree, I
Right.
grew on it, is so important. And
Yeah.
these people that have these experiences with mistletoe are ready to have them.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning like they open up, it's almost like having cancer is like going to therapy. It's
Mm.
admitting that maybe there's some things that you're doing that have been bad for you or wrong, and you need to also be open to improve on things.
Mm.
And I feel like when people are more open to learning and understanding their body, especially doing terrain testing, that's when things really start working.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that has
Oh
happened for
yeah.
you?
It's so interesting to hear you talk about this with a little bit more detail, because I remember when we first did the test for the mistletoe, I was deer in the headlights due to all these things. We tested two different types. We tested I'd always called it abates, but how do you properly pronounce it?
Hiatus.
Abeitis. Okay, I need to like tattoo that to my forehead. Abeitis. And I think the penny,
Yeah.
which you were suggesting to test both just based on like body type and then
Right.
also cancer type.
I thought aviatus because thymus is more, in my opinion, like produces blood. It's in the sternum, it's high up. I was
Mhm.
always gravitated in my thought process for aviatus for you.
Yeah.
I,
The interesting thing was when you test it, you inject just like a small little bit. So we
a small
injected
amount. Yeah.
both and I
Yes.
had a reaction to both. So I was like, oh God, okay. Now what do we choose? But we ended up going with the aviatus. And um, even still to this day, like I still see the reaction. I'm doing that subcutaneously. When I went to Buffalo and I was working with Dr. Kaplan and doing a whole bunch of other things, that was the first time I had done mistletoe intravenously. And we were doing Fraxini at the time, which he was saying, and I don't know if you have thoughts on this too, he was saying because there was a spread into the lung lining, that Fraxini tends to be something that's used when there's a metastasis. So
Yeah.
I had welts, like no joke, like this big on both sides of my abdomen. I was like red in my neck, like having that feverish reaction that you're talking about. And I was just like, my God, I have hives everywhere. The nurses are trying to reassure me, like, no, 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 this is good. This is good. I'm like, how long does this last? What's going on? But to your point, ever since I started working with you in your clinic and with Dr. Lori, Dr. Janet, following the metabolic approach, I'm such a learner. And when people ask, what do you think caused this? We may never know, but I have some ideas. And a lot of that is like internal work that needs to be undone and like uncovered. And so I love the idea that you're talking about bonding with this plant and this plant knowing you and getting to work with your body, creating this reaction, like helping you heal from within, because there's so much like internal work that I've also done along this year plus journey that I feel like there's a lot of undoing in the healing process of like, you know, not stressing so much, not like burning the candle at both ends. I was always filling my plate with a million things. I was a stress ball. Like, you know, there was a lot of things happening in my life in this like crazy area of the world that we live in, that there's always this like internal pressure that I had on myself. So yeah, that does resonate. Long-winded response.
I've seen people who then get that almost hive reaction that when they do freak out, they might not be ready to continue with mistletoe too.
Mm,
I just did an intratumoral injection for one of my breast cancer patients Monday, and she was getting the hive reaction from the IV, which is amazing. But you know, she sat there, she drank some water. Obviously, we want to make sure missile doesn't create an anaphylactic reaction. It's not
right.
anaphylaxis, honestly. It's creating an immune response, a histamine response. And
Mm,
people start thinking, oh, my swallowing differently,
yeah,
my throat might close. That's scary.
it is.
But when people are like, okay, this is amazing, this is what it needs to happen, and change their thought process,
Yes.
I've seen such great things with mistletoe. When I say great things, longer lifespans, remission, with
Mm-hmm.
obviously everything, but mistletoe is such a big part of that. And it's interesting to see real time with the patient where they're
Yeah.
like freaking out, and then they're like, wait, this is awesome. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's when they're bonding. That's
Yeah.
when they're open and they're allowing it in. It's when I see
Mm-hmm.
people that freak out. And Benadryl does reverse it immediately.
Yeah.
Really you don't want to give Benadryl, right? Because it decreases antihistamine. So it's really hard for a provider. I think it really has to be a clinic and provider that really understands mistletoe, because more times than not, we've had instances where we really need to coach the patient. They stay 3 hours in our clinic. We have to give some extra fluids and coach them and understand. And right, like you said, we gave two different types just to see, understands the reactions, like
Mm-hmm.
what's best for the patient. And listen, there is no best. And that's the thing. You can't just give someone one thing and then be like, okay, I'll see you in 3 months.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, it's okay. How was the reaction? How are you doing? How are you feeling? What's going on?
Yeah. There's definitely a level of relationship building and trust that we would have as patients with you for sure. I think, you know, when you and your team was encouraging, like, no, the reaction is good. Or when I was doing the IV in Buffalo and it was like, no, that reaction is good. It's to your point. It's a retraining of your brain because your body's having this crazy reaction and you're like, what's happening to me? I need to calm this down as the immediate response. Something's wrong. We need to fix it. But when you can accept that, oh no, this is what we want to see, and you have somebody there with you encouraging that, it's like, okay, I'm going to turn off like my fight or flight response and I'm just going to accept this and let it do its work. Like let it work its magic.
Now, going off your point too, when you said that you got Fraxini and there was metastasis,
Mm-hmm.
I think more clinics and providers with the aid and understanding mistletoe and it growing so much are becoming more open to having hyperthermia or low grade fevers. It
Mm-hmm.
was something at first I was like, I don't know if I feel comfortable doing this outpatient.
Yeah.
However, it is an amazing thing. Fever, heat therapy is so big in the alternative world where it basically kills any vascular growing around tumors,
Mm-hmm.
and which is creates metastasis and it stops rapid cell division. So if someone does have a very progressive cancer, I hope they're even open to the mistletoe or learning about hyperthermia. And if it is applicable for them, that they're open to it.
Yeah. It's fascinating, honestly. I feel like I could pick your brain about mistletoe for hours. I don't want to leave anything out of this conversation. So if you feel like there's anything important about mistletoe before I ask you a little bit more about ozone,
Yeah.
please, the stage is yours.
So let me just go back to Germany. I only
Oh,
took
yes,
one.
yes.
So I did go to Helixer, and Abnoba is where Fraxini is from. So I went to those two. Helixer actually showed us the farm and where the mistletoe was grown. And then Abnoba did more of the processing. Basically, they drip the lectins from mistletoe into like a churning machine and they dilute it with air. It's based off anthroposophic medicine.
Okay.
Just like Helleborus, which I got you to go on, which
Yes.
helps with swelling and inflammation. It's great for the lungs also, and nebulize. But basically, like a 12x Helleborus is the most diluted because it's exposed to air 12 times opposed to 2 times, which is less diluted. So it's opposite conventional medicine, thinking low to high, but it could be backwards for anthroposophic medicine. So it was really cool seeing that in the clinics. We had so many case studies, which it's hard for us to find here in the States using web pages in America, but the case studies these clinics had, and they do need to provide these case studies to the country and to keep these clinics open and provide mistletoe. So it is regulated highly. But mistletoe given day before and after even chemotherapy reduces symptoms extremely. It is just bar to none, especially our patients when they're receiving mistletoe. Sometimes I like hearing the second time they do chemo, even if they were in remission and they have cancer again. They're like, I have felt nothing with the mistletoe. I wish I learned about this sooner. But of course, a lot of providers don't know mistletoe or how it's used, especially taking these courses and seeing these things and talking in the community is so important. But doing it is so helpful in regards to conventional medicine. And that's where a lot of these case studies are performed around conventional medicine. It's not saying that mistletoe should be by itself and just a natural treatment for cancer.
Yeah.
So that was very cool, going to the clinics and learning more about anthroposophic medicine, art therapy, music therapy. And we did learn a lot about hyperthermia in addition to the mistletoe. So it all really came together.
Yeah. It makes me wish that here in the US we would consider that, because I think if I told any of my conventional doctors, they would be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know if you can speak to that at all, but is mistletoe used in hospital settings in Europe to treat cancer alongside chemo? Is it an option you can have right there in the hospital?
So not all hospitals. There's 9 hospitals that have the mistletoe therapy, and they are basically a anthroposophic alternative hospital that does both alternative treatments and conventional treatments. They would still treat you just like a conventional hospital, but patients would specifically go to those hospitals. So it's not like every single hospital offers it. And there are private outpatient settings where they do basically what we're saying together in an outpatient setting. So it's a little more cost effective for people, especially people from other countries, because even people from here fly there. So instead of maybe paying a little more cost, which is nothing compared to here. I think he was saying it was about $1,000 a night to stay in a hospital, opposed to an outpatient setting, it'd be like $500, but they would still pay extra for these services. They would have nurses and monitors and be able to do these therapies in the outpatient setting.
Yeah. So interesting to think about an option where like the two are offered under the same roof. Hopefully that's where we move in the future.
Yeah.
But that is really cool to have that experience. Okay. I want to spend time talking about ozone therapy selfishly for myself, because I understand a bit about it. Obviously, I was doing ozone IV from like December right up until a little bit before surgery at your clinic, and I found it fascinating. I just found in doing it, I felt like I don't know if this is a common thing, but I felt like I really got my groove back. I remember saying to Jaleesa, because I was going weekly, she's like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, I feel like myself again. I feel like I have my energy back after going through a lot of the conventional treatments and chemo. Like my digestion was a wreck. So I don't know if, again, if this is normal, but like my digestion was really great. I felt like I had my little Jamie pep in my step and I felt so good. And then she's showing me, because it is so manual and she's so involved and she's there in the room with me. She's like, oh, you see this foam and all these little white specks? I'm like, yeah, what's that? She's like, this is like a good sign. This is pathogen coming out of your blood. So we want to draw those toxins out and then we purify and then we put it back in. So I was just like, I don't even know what's going on, but if this is good for me, sign me up. I felt great. So talk to me about Ozone, because I know there's also different types. There's like the EBOO and then there's Ozone IV.
Right.
Wherever you want to start
You
that long-winded
did
question.
receive the 10 pass Ozone.
Yes.
Just for any listeners, IV Elements does have the Zotzmann Ozone machine, which is from Germany. Yes,
Okay.
it is a
Of
very
course it is.
manual machine. Yes, right. Talk about Germany some more. It is a very manual machine, which is maybe why a lot of other clinics do not have this type of machine. There are a few 10 pass machines that actually have spin the bottle for the person doing the procedure. But with the Zotzmann machine, you have to stay next to the machine and press a pedal every 6.
If you are listening to this episode and thinking, I have a serious healthcare diagnosis, I've been dealt the cancer card, I want to have support around ways I can heal myself using naturopathic healing, and I need somebody who gets it, please take advantage of this opportunity to work with my naturopath, Dr. Lori Bouchard. Dr. Lori was nice enough to offer a free 30-minute strategy call to dive deep into your personal needs, understand more about your unique diagnosis, and see how she could help. So if you have been listening to my episodes, maybe you listened to my interview with Dr. Lori recently, we talk about cancer as a metabolic disease. And when you look at it from that lens, you need to work on your metabolic health, whether that is focusing on your nutrition, focusing on certain things in fitness, maybe fine-tuning your supplements, working on the mental health healing process. This is all encompassing and something you'll learn in the Metabolic Cancer Reset Program. This program is designed by Dr. Lori. It is an incredible program where not only do you get one-on-one time with her, you dive deep into your lab work that you look at in a very specific naturopathic lens on a monthly basis. You also get access to her weekly group calls. So it is a great way to have resources, connect with other people who are going through something similar and who can understand what you're going through. You also get a program with Dr. Lori. So in her Metabolic Cancer Reset Program, she provides multiple videos talking about getting into ketosis, about nutrition, about fasting, different ways to even work with the conventional side of treatment. If this is something you're interested in, or maybe you're thinking, I really want to send this information to a friend, to a coworker, a family member, a significant other, somebody else who may be dealing with a significant healthcare diagnosis of their own and they're looking to get support on their healing journey, Dr. Lori is providing a free 30-minute strategy call. Take a look at the description of this episode. I will link it below. I promise it will change the game in terms of your healing process. So I hope you enjoy, and thank you, Dr. Lori, for that gracious offer.
Seconds. So yes, we do provide many Ozone procedures. So you're receiving the 10 pass. It is a hyperbaric service. I think that's also why you were looking to do it as well, since you were doing hyperbaric oxygen like in a chamber.
Yes.
So with the 10 pass, it does go up to a higher concentration. It is the highest concentration ozone service that there is out of all the services and treatments, procedures that Ozone does do. It goes up to 70 gamma. So the machine does allow 0 to 70, and it can go up to the highest. This is really good for patients looking for die-off. Mainly really stubborn viruses, infections, viruses like HSV, skin infections and fungus infections. We have a lot of candida. Women hold so much fungus in their body. I think Dr. Winters was saying at the conference I was just at, like some women, I think it's up to 30% of women have fungus infections just even in their blood, in their body, just because we do obviously have vaginas. So getting Ozone, it would be such a great treatment for that. Bacteria, we do Lyme, big Lyme component. There's an endless amounts of reasons why someone should get the 10 pass, and especially the hyperbaric treatment. Ozone is a hyper oxygenated molecule. Oxygen basically put in a condensed environment, especially with the blood, doesn't allow things to live, which is why hyperbaric oxygen chambers are so big. It basically is another thing that creates die-off and killing pathogens, which pathogens is just an umbrella of all the virus, bacteria, fungus that we were just saying.
Right.
So the die-off is just a lot stronger with a 10-pass machine. We'd spin the blood about 200 cc's each pass. So we vacuum up 200 cc's, we spin it with ozone, and then we actually put it back into your body with pure oxygen. That's where the hyperbaric aspect comes in. So you do retain the same parts of ozone and oxygen. And we do this up and down, which would equal about 2 liters of your blood.
Okay, because I did have somebody ask me, how much blood are they actually taking out? Are they taking out all of your blood? Is it a portion of your blood?
Yeah, the human body has about 4 to 5 liters of blood. So we're basically doing half of the body's blood.
Mm-hmm.
That could be added UVBI, which is the ultraviolet light. Blood irradiation basically can be added on to any ozone. You want to do it with the blood ozone. So it could be MAH, 10-pass, or EBOO. But just doing that even with 10-pass helps kill pathogens. Also, that's what the light's known for. And then methyl blue is activated by light. So we can kind of do a little like trifecta effect of methyl blue activated by light with the 10-pass. So many people do all three together, but also many people just do it by itself.
Mm-hmm.
EBOO is so popular right now. I feel like I've seen that more than 10-pass. People don't really know about 10-pass too much because, again, not many people get this type of machine. It's very manual. So EBOO is really growing in not just alternative worlds and natural, but even regeneratively, even for stem cell placement or anti-aging purposes. And EBOO is really a detox ozone. It helps really with inflammation. A lot of those proteins like cytokines or spike proteins, even from COVID. But inflammation is really big and it's detoxing the blood with a filter. And the filter is a closed system filter. It's basically allowing a large amount of blood being exposed to ozone, a larger surface area, as you say.
Okay.
So it's not like dialysis. A lot of people put that on their websites and say it's dialysis. It is not dialysis. It's just exposing a large amount of blood to ozone. The reason is mainly detox. Yes, it does kill things also. We can talk about what type of patients it's good for, but it only allows that concentration of ozone we went back to with 10-pass at 70. With EBOO, it's from 7 to 14. So it's such a lower amount of ozone. It's over a longer period of time, though. We can do up to 3 liters of blood, which is almost the amount of all the blood in the body.
Yeah.
This is a really great EBOO can be used for anyone. Increased immunity, fighting off any sickness, or does not want to be exposed to someone sick, crazy amounts of inflammation. But 10-pass helps with inflammation too. Like you said, your gut health was good. Any ozone helps with immunity. Inflammation. When I trained with Dr. Rowan in Santa Rosa, California, he is one of the first ones to have such a big clinic with these Zotzmann machines. He described sometimes that filter, we actually get it from Malaysia, but it acts as a meningeal lining. And I talked to you about meningeal linings. Biofilm, gut health is around biofilm. We harbor our pathogens in biofilm, and biofilm is not just in the gut, it's that meningeal lining in your spinal cord and your brain. Which is why people with gut problems or biofilm problems have, they're not thinking properly, headaches,
cognitive issues,
because it's all linked together. So that lining, it almost smells like a biology class, like we're going to cut cadavers. The liquid that comes out of the filter smells like a film. And Dr. Rowan has said it acts almost like a biofilm. So people that have these, maybe even molds, that one is a really stubborn one where mold really attaches to the biofilm and we have to go through chelating and biofilm type of treatments. You want to do EBOO. There's a time and a place for EBOO and there's a time and a place for 10-pass.
Okay.
I don't think have patients were like, oh, my provider said EBOO can be for everything or 10-pass. If you have the options, there is differences between both.
Yeah, I think it's important to distinguish too, because I wasn't really sure what the difference was between the two.
Yeah, we have so many co-infections in our gut, which is why people do parasite cleanses and work on biofilm. And that's where EBOO really comes in. And that's the anti-aging part, right? If we can decrease the amount of co-infections and any lingering viruses, bacteria, fungus, etc. in our body, we are not prone to sometimes snowballing into these chronic conditions or cancer, for example. So that's why EBOO is growing more into the regenerative world as well.
So, but 10-pass works on viral load as well, right? I feel like there's a lot of crossover between the two.
Yes, ozone does help with that, but because 10-pass does get it at such a high concentration, it's more it's more prone to stopping that replication. Like I call it
Gotcha.
like a bug zapper for any rapid cell division. It basically just
Okay.
stops it. Similar
Okay.
to hyperthermia, but not the same.
Yeah.
I think 10 pass is a lot better. I'm always going to be a little more towards 10 pass just because I've been doing it for so long now before we did EBOO. And you know what? When people know we have 10 pass, we do more 10 pass than EBOO.
Yeah.
And different types of patients. The amount of Lyme and HSV patients that we do, aside from cancer patients with the 10 pass machine. And that tells you something. These are people who have like really chronic conditions or a virus that is just impossible to get rid of.
Yeah.
But because they have such high viral loads, especially even with HSV, we want to decrease that because people start having achy joints, they're again having headaches, not feeling good, they can't get up out of bed. And like you said, even when you did it, just kind of going off of that, you felt like you again. Like
Yeah.
it just really makes people feel so much better. In so many ways, like we were saying.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So you see, everybody, why I wanted to bring Rebecca onto the podcast. She has so much information to share. It's fascinating, honestly, all of it. It's just, it blows my mind. And I feel extremely grateful to be in an area where IV elements exist and I have access to something like this because I see how it's helped me. I guess for somebody who's listening to this conversation, whether they are local or they were able to get to your clinic somehow, if they're close enough, can you tell me how you approach working with somebody, let's say a cancer patient or somebody who has some type of chronic health issue and they're coming to your practice for the first time?
That's a great question. Because we do offer services where people can get that first and foremost, I do give people options. I would love if they wanted to come to me and do the terrain testing and move forward with snowballing into like what type of cytokine do they have? Do they have any SNPs or SNPs? Basic lab, doing your lab testing. I would love to offer that, but because we're mainly a service company, which we are trying to transition this, especially with my training and education, I do give them the option of coming to the clinic based on what their naturopath has basically said would be good for them and their labs. I would love to see the labs and put my 2 cents towards it. So they do have that option, or they can get the labs with me. Also, people can do basic lab work, but also just work with their oncologist. So because they go to their oncologist and it covers with insurance, at times I do give them a list of labs for their oncologist if their oncologist is open to it. And they are a little more progressive, their oncologist will order the labs, which will get covered by insurance. Cancer or anyone's treatment, especially in the alternative world, is different for every patient. And just because someone has come for high dose vitamin C 3 times a week doesn't mean it's going to mean work for someone else in their treatment.
Yes.
Different types of cancers gravitate towards different oxidative service. Like with yours, I advised ozone from the beginning, I remember. But I know high dose vitamin C is a really easy thing to get at many clinics, and not all clinics offer ozone. But I would love for people, when they're open, again, like we talked about with Mistletoe and learning about other things, then they also gravitate towards services that might even work better for them because they're more open to it or they understand. And I think that's what's so great about IV Elements is that we constantly educate. So people do ask questions. They are in charge of their health. They can pick and choose. And I don't want it to be like a conventional office where it's like, hey, you have to come in here for curcumin and poly-MVA twice a week. I see that with other clinics when people come to us, that at these clinics, they come 5 days a week. They get all these infusions. Some people can't afford that. What can we do that's most important for you? Obviously, if you're able to, we'll make a treatment plan like that and we can do that. But then out of all of these things, what's best?
Right. And I think that's such a good point that it is so personal. It's not a one size fits all. You are somebody who understands that and has that knowledge. You go into the conventional world and it's just like, here's the standard dose of drugs that we're going to give you. And let's just like see what happens. It either works or it doesn't. It's working. Okay, we'll give you more. Even if it's not working, my oncologist was like, well, let's try to give you more. Like, no.
I think also so many clinics, because IV therapy is becoming popular, is offering some of these obviously cancer services for cancer patients. But do they understand? Because there's rules too and guidelines. Like we should not be doing liver detox on a cancering patient. If someone is cancering, we want to attack the cancer. Liver detoxing is going to hurt the actively cancering patient. And if I go into that a little, is you're using oxidative therapies, you don't want to use antioxidants. You don't want to liver cleanse. Like, there's a time and a place for being proactive in a cancering patient versus after remission or chemo and rebuilding the body and doing a detox. You have to pick and choose those sides. And I feel like too many people just are doing the services and not understanding for the patient what to do, because you can actually hurt them and make the cancer worse or like excel it. There are even studies online that antioxidants can excel certain cancers, just like NAD. Like, you shouldn't give NAD to a cancer patient. You should make sure you do a full consult and educate them. That's why methyl blue is so big for our cancer patients. But I think just it's good if a clinic obviously has that understanding and education before offering all these services.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot to think about. And as somebody who might be new to these services and doesn't know what to expect or know what's right for them, it's nice to have somebody like you and your team that can really guide them with all the nuances of somebody's individual diagnosis and what makes the most sense, to your point, like when to be oxidative, when to be antioxidative, that whole when and when to pump the brakes.
Well, that's also reflects on the testing too. We can't work on so many things. Let's decrease your LDL. Let's decrease inflammation. Let's work now on the A1C. You can't have everyone work on everything. And the same thing with all these services too. We need to focus.
Right. Because it absolutely takes a toll on your body, right? Your body is working hard to heal while it's going through all these treatments. So some things may help you feel really good. For me, the ozone made me feel great. Sometimes when I was getting in a high dose vitamin C, or even like going into the HBOT chamber, it's oxidative, so you feel tired. So you just want to make sure you're taking care of your body in the right way. And to have guidance from somebody who is an expert is so incredibly important.
Yeah, you don't want to. I always say this to some other patients, which might be more of the closed off patients, not wanting feedback, but they do so much of everything. And then they're like, nothing's working. Well, you have to give it time.
Yeah.
Just with even our mistletoe, we're not going to give you one injection and not try one for a few weeks. It has to be a bonding experience. And I think that just shows, though, the type of person when they're doing one of everything and they're like, nothing's working. And I'm like, well, we need to focus on one thing and see what's best for you.
Yeah.
But that's someone also that I see has a lot of anxiety, is closed off.
Yeah. And often these treatments, to your point, they do take time. It is a slower process, but I think we're so adapted as human beings in the modern world to look for a quick fix to everything, that this is not necessarily a quick fix, because it's the healing process. As we were just saying before we hit record, I'm 6 weeks in post-op and I'm still healing. As much as I want to be like, totally fine, it's like every day is different, because our body is always trying to keep us in equilibrium and trying to support us. But there's so many different things happening inside of us that every day we might feel a little bit different. And all of these treatments might have a slightly different impact on us depending on the food we're eating, how well we're sleeping, our stress, our joy, all of these things that really do add up when it comes to our health.
Yeah, definitely.
So I feel like I could talk to you for hours. So maybe we'll have to bring you on for like a part 2 and a part 3, because I feel like there's so many things we haven't discussed, but just being mindful, of course, of your time.
My cytokine story.
Yeah.
Which is so important. Everyone should learn about cytokine testing and treatment for it.
Okay. Do you want to talk about that a bit, or do you feel like that's a whole nother conversation?
It can be a really big one. Just a lot of treatments are based on cytokines, and testing for them is really important, because that is where like the inflammation and the immune response lies.
Yeah. Tell me more.
So that is only because you're like, hey, what are these might be some questions I'm gonna ask. But one of, I think you were saying even like autoimmune, and that's a loaded question. That could be its own podcast.
Yeah.
But I think the autoimmune should be based around cytokines.
Okay.
And those are basically like proteins, obviously, that are made by immune cells. So they replicate off a certain immune cell, like basically like leukocytes or lymphocytes.
Mm.
But I think even your doctor, Dr. Janet, did tests for IL-6, for example. That is a
Mm-hmm.
basic terrain testing.
Mm-hmm.
And just testing for those can let us know how much inflammation there is and even like your
Mm-hmm.
immune responses in the body. And I'm just going after it because it's really great to learn and do treatments for, like the top 3 treatments, even for our inflammatory patients, which is more autoimmune, would be definitely curcumin.
Mm.
That really does help decrease cytokine responses. EBOO and mistletoe, actually.
Mm.
Mistletoe, this was just a little talk from mistletoe, is starting to be used for more than just cancer currently, especially in Germany.
Interesting. Okay.
It's going to be big for Lyme. I've had some Lyme patients that when they did go to other countries for treatment, they're starting to introduce mistletoe into those therapies.
Hmm.
So I
Wow.
think the way the body has natural immunity versus acquired immunity.
Mm-hmm.
Natural, obviously, is your immediate response to a pathogen, versus acquired immunity is an exposure from that pathogen over time in your response to it.
Mm.
And then how do we fight it? Our body not only has immune cells, but creates these proteins that are made from the immune cells that attach to the antigen, which is a pathogen.
So much to learn.
But I think understanding that even helps with the treatment plan in alternative medicine.
Right.
When someone does come and is like, oh, we can do all these at once, but what's best for me? That's why I was saying it is really great, especially when I do lab testing. Like, hey, you know what? Curcumin would be really great, or EBOO, or
Mm-hmm.
mistletoe. We do have a thought process behind what we do. We're not just throwing anything out. And I
Sure.
think testing, as you see, even monthly testing is just so important.
Oh, yeah. Seeing trends and having that information helps you as a practitioner make more calculated recommendation to the treatment plan. I mean, my mind was blown understanding and learning how much can be detected from lab work. The integrative naturopathic world as opposed to like what they look at even as like a range of normal in
Right.
the conventional side of things. So
Well, that's how they base treatments off of, like for chemotherapy. It is actually what cytokines are best, or what chemo treatments kill these cytokines, which help distinguish what treatments are best for what types of cancer. So we can kind of make that guidance also in the alternative world based on that testing.
so interesting. All right, we're going to have a part 2. You heard it here first. All about autoimmunity and cytokines because that, I mean, selfishly applies to me. So I would love to understand more, but I also think there are so many people. I've mentioned this before and it hurts my heart. You're obviously seeing these people walk through your doors too. Now that I started putting my story out there, I can't tell you how many messages I get. It's like, hey, Jamie, I have a family member or a friend or a sister or a coworker or a cousin who has this diagnosis and has this going on. And it's just like too many people, too many young people diagnosed with cancer under the age of 40, autoimmune issues like up the wazoo. Like it's such a prevalent problem. And it's really alarming to me. But, you know, knowing that there's things like these types of treatments that people should know about, like that is one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to have you on here, to spread awareness of some of these things that people can do to help themselves heal. Because people, especially with the autoimmune piece, which I feel like sometimes can just be a big question mark if you don't have the right doctor guiding you or somebody who really understands, it can feel like you don't know where to start. So let's definitely, if you're open to it, if your schedule allows, having so many practices to keep afloat, I would love to have you on for a part 2 and talk more detail about the autoimmune piece for
Yeah, that
sure.
would be really great. But thank you so much also.
Yeah.
I feel time flew by.
I know. This is what I'm saying. I could pick your brain for days and I can listen to you talk. I always learn something from you every time. I will link IV Elements, Instagram, and your website as well. But something I ask everybody being on the Forward Think Tank, what keeps you moving forward in life?
That's a really great question. And I love that that's like your brand also.
Yeah.
I've been really reflecting this lately, being 6.5 years in business. I feel like I've been thinking what is making me move forward and what helps that. I'm a big energy person. I think just all the love and gratitude and just feedback and people that I'm helping. I've always been a helper. Definitely makes me keep moving forward. The business is hard, but that does make me want to keep learning. And I think just because I'm so passionate, I love learning. I love reading.
I can tell. It's obvious. You're good at it.
That keeps me moving forward too, is curiosity.
Yeah.
And being open and not like, hey, I read this once, this is the answer. Like,
Yeah.
hey, how did this change?
Yep.
I love being curious, but the energy is number one. I wake up every day, and I'm sure you've talked about it on other podcasts, but who you surround yourself with and what you do every day regarding even hobbies and thought processes just need to be in a positive forward state. And I feel like I just have such great people around me and that keep pushing me, even though sometimes I'm like, no, I don't want to be pushed anymore. And I'm just so happy that I have that network and community. I don't feel alone, but just so many of these cancer patients that have and family members that have thanked me more so recently for making this accessible and offering this and learning about it so you could give it to me safely.
Yeah.
And I've been hearing that so much lately, and that's been making me feel like, okay, this is why I do this every day.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, it's beautiful. It's bringing a tear to my eye because I've told you so many times, I'm so grateful that you exist. And I'm so grateful that, I am here living where I live right now, having access to that. Also just getting to know you as a human being and seeing how passionate you are about all of this work, how much effort you do put into learning and understanding and growing as a person. Not everybody here on earth understands the value of growing, and surrounding yourself with the right people and people who motivate you is such an important piece of it all. So I feel forever blessed that the metabolic approach fell into my lap at the beginning of this diagnosis and allowed me to find and have access to people like you and Dr. Janet, Dr. Lori. It takes a big heart and also a lot of hard work and dedication to devote your career to helping people who have such heavy things going on. It's hard. It's hard being the patient. It's hard being, I'm sure, the practitioner. But you have a really big heart and a really big brain. And I'm so grateful for it.
Thank you also.
You're welcome, my fellow Capricorn girl. Well, thank you so much. This has been such an insightful conversation. I know so many people are going to learn from this, and I'm going to hold you to that part 2 or 3 or 4, whatever you want to come back and talk about. I know more people will just continue to learn from you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you also. And thank you to all the listeners for following Jamie. Her story is amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Did you enjoy this episode? If so, I would appreciate you taking a moment to please leave a 5-star review. Every review helps visibility with this episode to reach more people. And I am on a mission to help people learn alternate resources to support themselves in their healing journey on their road to health. So please take a moment to leave a review, leave a comment. I read every single one and I respond back. And of course, the most helpful thing you can do is to share this episode. If you found it helpful, if you found it entertaining, please share it on social media, send it to a friend, a loved one, someone you think could find this helpful. It means the absolute world to me. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening, and I will see you soon.